Hey, it's Dr. Karen Can. Welcome to another edition of the Spiritual Medicine Digest. And this week, Source wants me to talk about the worst case scenario. Isn't that interesting? And before I move on, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel in case you have not already, and think about maybe clicking that notification bell as well, so every time I do a new video, you will be notified. And I'd love for you to share your comments as well. So today we're talking about the worst case scenario. Now, those of you that have been in personal growth for quite some time or spiritual healing may be wondering, why are we even mentioning a worst case scenario, right? Like, if we imagine that, aren't we perpetrating that? Aren't we creating that in our future? Because maybe you've heard in the law of attraction, what you think about comes about, or where you put your attention, energy flows and results show, right? So then you're like, I don't see what the utility of the worst case scenario is. How is that possibly helpful when all we've been hearing over the last couple of decades related to the law of attraction or similar teachings that it's probably not a good idea to think about the worst case scenario or think anything negative at all? Well, here's the thing. We cannot necessarily, in our current human consciousness and form, prevent thoughts from happening, thoughts that we do not necessarily enjoy or desire. So that means negative thoughts do pop up, whether we like it or not. Now, I used to think that with the law of attraction that I should never, ever think negative thoughts, because then I would be, creating more negative things in my life. And then I'd blame myself because negative things would happen. Now I understand it differently. So it's more like when they talk about your attention, right? Like where your attention goes, energy flows and results show. It's not so much the negative thought or even a negative emotion that is necessarily creating the negativity that you see in your life, but it's more like how you feel about the negative thought. So let me back up a little bit. So in the past, I was a big fan of the law of attraction, the movie The Secret. So I would notice that I couldn't pay my bills. So I thought, well, I don't want to focus on my bills, right? I know that maybe I could just like white it out and see the number I really want on my bank account. I could do that exercise, sure. I mean, how many times can you do that before getting bored, though? Seriously. I had the fake check, right? Put it on the wall. Looked at it periodically. There it was, 25 million. I didn't know why I needed 25 million, but I put it there anyway. Just put a big number there. Now, looking back, it wasn't the most efficient way to use the law of attraction, if you will, even if there's such a law, to manifest more of what I desired. Because when I looked at the quote unquote reality in the moment, difficulty paying my bills, difficulty paying my mortgage, difficulty paying my office rent at the same month as my mortgage, things like that, anxiety would start up. And then I would chastise myself for feeling anxious because I'm like, oh, don't feel anxious, because if you feel anxious, you're going to create more lack and more scarcity. And I really was quite hard on myself. Have you ever been there? Yeah. So I was like, okay, don't think about it. Don't think about it. That's like saying, don't see the blue elephant in your living room right now. Yeah, don't see it. And what do? You see a blue elephant, right? So that don't think about the negative things, avoiding, the negative things, just think positive, think positive, think positive. And I would switch my thoughts to something positive. The problem with that process is that negative thought or emotion, I can't pay my bills, that's a bigger bill than I expected, that kind of thing gets buried deep because we overlay positive emotions, affirmations, whatever you want to call it, on top of it. But it's still there. It's still there. So how does the worst case scenario actually help us? Here's the thing. If you can entertain the idea of a worst case scenario and have absolutely no emotional reaction to it, You are a very powerful being, especially if you can do that day in and day out. As humans, we have a wiring, if you will, of survival, a hard wiring of survival. And in the past, it's all about, preventing danger from, taking over our lives or killing us or our family or, all those kinds of things. So we're kind of wired that way. So it is going to take some degree of consciousness and effort to rewire that. And remember, we are connected to all of humanity. And us sensitive souls, light workers, are even more connected on a more emotional or empathic way. So not only are we overcoming our own fear and worst case scenarios, we're actually overcoming it for others as well. And we can feel their stuff sometimes as much as our stuff, and sometimes even more than our stuff, depending on the day. If we can, as a conscious exercise, allow and accept and honor, let me say that again, allow, accept, and honor that there are some thoughts, emotions, ideas that do scare us, and that it's okay for us to have experienced that. But now we can let it go. But without honoring it, without accepting it first, without knowing it's okay as a human, it's just human stuff, right? We're in this limited being. It's understandable to be scared at times. If we try to push it down, it just stays there festering like a wound, someday spurting out into pus. You can tell I'm a doctor, right? Like, we love pus. It's so fun. Anyway, if we can purposefully and consciously go, okay, let's dig beneath the surface. What is really potentially there? And sometimes we can even make up a worst case, well, actually worst case scenarios are made up. What I mean is we can create different ones to test ourselves to see how reactionary, if that's a word, we are, reactive, that's a better word, to this thing we made up in our mind. So we're really not taking it personally. We're really not going down that road of, oh my God, I'm thinking negative thoughts, I'm going to create negativity, right? I'm saying, hang on, when you're doing it consciously, when you are, let's just say, having a fun game of it, what'll happen is you will find a little nubbin of fear there. Or sometimes it's really big fear that you have like put in a closet and locked it with a bunch of like, padlocks and furniture and all that kind of stuff and go, oh, I don't see a closet. Do you see a closet? I don't see a closet, right? I know I've done it. So this is very exciting to be able to consciously imagine for a moment a worst case scenario and be able to work with that with a tool to be able to first honor that the feeling's there, right? But then transmute it, transform it, flip it, if you will, maybe to its polar opposite. Now, in TOLPAKAN Healing, I'm the founder of the Academy of Light Medicine and TOLPAKAN Healing, we do have such a tool and method. And it's called the SEED Emotional Transmutation, also known as the 5 Elements Emotional Transmutation Protocol, which translates to F.E.E.T. Of course, that has nothing to do with the feet, but heck, I just created that acronym and it kind of stuck. So the F.E.E.T protocol, there we go. It is actually very powerful. Now, if you are good at divine muscle testing, you can actually use the actual protocol and the charts and everything like that to figure out the exact precise frequency of the emotion that goes with that particular worst case scenario. And then what happens is once you tune into that, you can just kind of just honor it and accept it for where it is, feel it in the body, allow it for that moment to have a voice and feel it in the body. You can even rate it out of 10, how bad it is. 0 meaning you don't feel the fear at all or whatever the emotion is. 10 meaning you feel it really a lot and it's, really big in your body, right? So you can honor it by then acknowledging, okay, well, right now it's about a 5 out of 10. And then we can do a TOLPAKAN healing directive to then alchemize and transmute that energy to its polar opposite and thereby neutralizing the emotional reaction to that. So that if that worst case scenario was entertained in your mind again, that the emotion associated with that is 0 or null or very, very little. And if it's still there, sometimes it'll take a day or two to process. You might even piggyback that with another scenario and do the same thing over and over again. Now, in the TOLPAKAN healing method, this is one of the modules that we have in the TOLPAKAN level 1. And so what we're going to do today for our TOLPAKAN healing activation is we are going to work on a couple of, let's just say, the worst or most intense emotions that can come with a worst case scenario. Now, in case you've been out of the habit of imagining worst case scenarios, I'm going to help you out here. Okay, so we're going to help you out. Now, this part may be triggering, but keep in mind, just stay the course if you wish to receive the healing, because we're going to be transmuting that. So I'm going to give you an example, okay, of a worst case scenario. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? It's just an imagination of the worst case scenario. And sometimes the most effective is when it's based on fact, right? So in other words, if the worst case scenario is like, well, you know, Godzilla is going to come and eat me up. You know, I'm not that scared about it because I think it's ridiculous, and you know, that's a worst case. You know what I mean? It's not real enough, right? But if I give you something that has some reality related to it, which you can personally relate to, then it may trigger that, whatever that is, the fear, the terror, whatever that is, right? Then we have something to work with and we can transmute. So, you want to get started? All right, so we're going to do a mini healing today. If this is not for you, okay, if you are like, whoa, worst case scenario, I can't go there right now because I already have anxiety issues, right? Totally get it. You probably want to mute me at this point until we get to the announcements. However, if you'd like to play, if you'd like to experience it and trust yourself, then we can move forward. So first thing is, let's all get into the 0-point field before we do the TOLPAKAN healing activation. How I like to teach it is rubbing your hands or moving your body about, just kind of shaking it a little bit, just getting some chi and energy flowing in the body. And then stop, relax. If it's safe for you to do so, go ahead and close your eyes. Slow your breath down, just so you can really pay attention. Focus on the inside of your body. Focus where your hands are. Feel movement, energy, waves, tingles, whatever it is. In your hands, follow where it goes. Follow where it flows. Maybe it goes up your arm, perhaps it goes across your chest, perhaps you feel it more in the head, perhaps you feel it down the right leg. It doesn't really matter. Just focus on it, feel it, and follow the flow wherever it goes. As you do that, we are entering the 0-point field now, seed of all creation. In this space, automatic healing occurs, and any healing directives we do amplify in its efficiency and efficacy. So continue feeling the energy running in your body as I speak out a potential worst case scenario. Now remember, this one is based on fact. So there might be more triggering, and just whatever's going on in your body, including any fear response, just allow it to be there. Just continue just noticing it in the body. Don't try to push it away. Just feel what it feels like. It normally will feel a little bit more buzzy, a little bit more movement, and just allow it to be there, because this is how we transmute that. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. So the scenario set first in 2023, February 27 is the date that 190 some nations get together and ratify an accord, an agreement that gives the World Health Organization full control of declaring a pandemic at any time they wish, without any oversight, and also controlling all the nations' pandemic response. Every nation kowtows and bows down to whatever the WHO says. The WHO declares another pandemic. Your country is not only shut down, but you have to be tagged, digital ID, and maybe a few things implanted in you, just so we can keep track of you. You're told what to eat, where you can go and where you cannot go. You're kind of locked into a 15-minute city block. You're not really allowed to have a car anymore. You're eating bugs. Your children go to a state school. You cannot homeschool them. You don't get to choose what you put in or out of your body. The state chooses that because, after all, it is a pandemic. You don't need any proof that you're sick or not sick. You're placed into a quarantine camp. They don't really like you very much. You don't understand why. You didn't do anything wrong. But they said, we think you're infected. But you say, I don't have any symptoms. And they said, well, we don't need to test you. We can just put you in a quarantine camp whenever we want to. Those are the rules. Okay, so that's the end of that worst case scenario. Go ahead and feel it in the body for now. Feel where you feel the energy, wherever it goes. Allow it to be there. Entertain this fantasy just for a moment. Internally rate it out of a 10. 0 meaning not triggered at all, no big deal. 10 meaning, oh my God, I can't believe she just said that. I am really triggered and I just want to run away. Okay, so if you're 10, that's okay. Stay the course. So after you have that number out of 10, I'm going to go ahead and do the TOLPAKAN Healing Directives. We're going to flip and transmute the most common emotions that come up with the worst case scenario for you now, if you're willing to accept. Obviously, you've come this far, so I think that's a yes. Then you can just listen in. Here we go. Go ahead and continue feeling the body. See if you notice a shift. I now command that the seed emotion of fear, terror, panic, and all attached emotions be flipped and transmuted to its polar opposite in the highest and best way. All directions of time and all timelines where we exist, we're allowed with ease, speed, and grace. Thank you. I now command that the seed emotions of sorrow, sadness, grief be transmuted, flipped to its polar opposite in the highest and best way, all directions of time with speed, ease, and grace. Thank you. I now command the emotions of guilt, anger, frustration, resentment be flipped to its polar opposite in its highest and best way, all directions of time and all timelines where you exist with ease, speed, and grace. And now command that any resistance or reactivity energy be deleted, dissolved, and uncreated and minimized to a null, that is a 0. I now command that all attached emotions to any of these seed emotions be also transmuted, flipped to its polar opposite in whatever fractal and every dimension possible, whatever is allowed and safe, in the highest and best way, all directions of time with speed, ease, and grace. Thank you. So if you had your eyes closed, you can open your eyes, feel into the body again, notice how it feels. Notice how it feels. Go ahead and just imagine the worst case scenario again. Imagine the worst case scenario again, this particular one that we are playing with. Notice how it feels. Notice how your emotions feel. Notice how your body feels. Go ahead and rate that out of 10. 10 meaning the worst, 0 meaning no reaction at all. Where are you now? So I'd love to know. Some people may take longer to have that shift, may take a few hours, but a lot of people will already start noticing the shift as these emotions start to transmute themselves in this protocol. You're doing the healing. The universe is helping you. I'm just the guide. So I would love for you to comment below this video. Let me know how that worked for you. How did you process? What was it like? Were you scared to begin with? Was it really uncomfortable? Or maybe it wasn't, right? And then you were very neutral just to start because you've done this exercise before. What did it feel like in your body afterwards? Now for me, I would say that I feel a lot more kind of calm, you know? Not like joyous, but not angry or resentful or any of those negative emotions we named previously. And so that is actually a shift for me. Now, some of the worst case scenario is based on fact. That does not mean necessarily that that would be the future that we're creating, because again, we are just playing here with a possibility, a quantum possibility, and releasing all the resistance and reactivity related to that, which will therefore minimize the possibility of that manifesting. And the more people that can do this exercise, the better. So that is this week's Spiritual Medicine Digest. Let's do a couple of announcements. So on my Light Warrior radio show, I have the great pleasure of interviewing Marguerite Rigoglioso. And she is an expert in Mary Magdalene and the 7 mysteries of Mary Magdalene. So we had a very neat conversation about, who is she really? Is she a prostitute, or is she some sort of high priestess of some sort? Why were so many women called Mary back in those days? And what was her relationship with Jesus the Christ? Were they consorts, or was she just a disciple, or did he just cast demons and that was it? And, why the 7 mysteries of Mary Magdalene can be helpful for us today, and even men can draw upon these mysteries to co-create miracles and accelerate healing and evolution. So lots of interesting questions and answers in this radio show. So if you have any interest at all in Mary Magdalene or the mysteries of Mary Magdalene, this is definitely one you want to listen to. So it is on Monday at 12 noon Eastern airing, and you can click the link and listen to the show. If you can't make it live, you can always listen to it later on as well. So we do have some cool stuff, new stuff, and some announcements related to what's coming up with our events. The UWealth Revolution Spring 2023 launch is upon us. So I will put the link below this video. I'm very pleased to be part of the UWealth Revolution Telesummit again this year. And my interview, which, if you've been in the other interviews, there's going to be a lot of, individual and group healing, super exciting, is going to be on the topic of anxiety. In fact, the package that I'm creating through UWealth Revolution is called Anxiety SOS, because we've been seeing a lot of people with the accelerated energies and whatever's going on are having difficulty with these symptoms. Sometimes it's physiologic only, other times it's metaphysical. So we're going to address a lot of these topics, a lot of these issues with the symptom of anxiety. And so my interview is going to be Monday, April the 3rd, 4 p.m. Eastern. So mark that in your calendar, because I'd love to have you live on the interview with me. So some other things to share with you is the Light Warrior Training Camp, which is Sunday, May 28th through Friday, June 2nd. We are just about ready to launch the super early bird price. So it is a 5-day immersion camp with yours truly, live and in person. We have limited space. It's a beautiful retreat center out in nature. There is a beautiful healing vortex out on the lake. So weather permitting, we will be doing a lake meditation and vortex meditation out there. So the times where I've done this camp before, it's been absolutely magical. So I'd love for you to be there. The super early bird price is $1,111, which is about 80% less than the regular price, but we only have 25 seats, if you will, for that particular price point. So just keep it in mind that we'll be launching that soon, and check your email. If you're on my email list at KarenCam.com, check your email so that you can get first dibs on one of those super early bird seats. So the other thing is, on Tuesday, I will be on Om Times TV. Om Times TV, with Tamara Oviette, another healer, colleague of mine. And we're going to be talking about embodying your new reality and how to live in 5D consciousness. What does that actually mean? So we're going to have a really cool conversation, and you are invited live to be there and to comment and to be a part of it. So I will put that link as well near this video. So I hope to see you on Tuesday. So that's the announcements for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. this week at Spiritual Medicine Digest. I look forward to next week. Until then, lots of love and bye for now.